Dyed my hair blue so boss would stop blaming me for hair in customers' food, by user throwaway 72615189993. I used to work for a sandwich shop. All the other employees there were Indian women with very long black hair. Mine was sort of similar, I suppose. Medium length and brown. But every time a customer would complain about a long black hair in the food, my boss would immediately blame me without any hesitation or investigation, despite the fact that I was the only person who wore my hair up and netted. So one day I dyed my hair blue with the sole purpose of not being blamed for black hair being in the food. You guessed it, it happened. And how huffy and annoyed my boss got when I said it couldn't be my hair because mine is blue, was beyond amusing. I tipped my ex-friend and bully as petty revenge, by user FlashAcow1. To start, this girl and I were best friends the first half of high school. However, something changed in her. She became depressed and suicidal because she was being severely bullied online. I reported what she told me to both the school counselors and her parents, and I told her that I told them. She decided I betrayed her and suddenly became a bully towards me. Ironically, she became friends with the girls who bullied us both right after. She later found out they were the online bullies too. My first job was front-end at a restaurant and she knew when and where I worked. So she made it a point to show up at my work where I really couldn't do much. I had to serve her and her new friends. She saw me coming and said to not expect a tip because service industry workers are servants who don't need to be paid. That stuck with me for years. I told my manager that I refused to serve her or them ever again. Manager was fine with it at that point as I had made comments before. From that day on I never spoke to my ex-friend for years. Recently I went to my hometown in a local restaurant. Lo and behold, my waiter is my ex-friend. Again, I haven't spoken to her at all since that day. She basically said I was her servant. I decided to get petty revenge by killing her with kindness. I was polite, but never acknowledged that I knew her. She kept saying she swears she recognizes me from somewhere. I kept brushing the question off. Then came the bill. When the receipt for the tip came, I put a note on it that said first and, former, last name, do you still think service industry workers are servants who don't need to be paid, with a 100% tip on a $40-ish meal. As I walked out I saw her face as she read the note. She turned very red. I think my kind petty revenge got to her. Edit, 15 years of not seeing or hearing from each other, name change due to marriage, glasses I wasn't wearing during high school, a different haircut, as in from long hair to shaved, and adding 30 pounds will make you harder to recognize. I trained a senior colleague to do what I want without him ever knowing, by USCR 3345444449E14. I used to work in a role where I administrated the security access card system for a huge office. An obnoxious colleague used to take a shortcut from the lobby through a meeting room and out the other side to his desk, but in doing so he would leave the meeting room's entrance door open, which would sound an alarm once he had left the area. I sat in the lobby near the door he left open and I was the one who had to get up and close it for him. He didn't respond to polite requests to stop, so I disabled his access pass, but only on the second door, which is closest to his desk. He'd walk through the meeting room, get 6 feet from his desk, and be declined by the door. This caused him to have to walk back to me to ask if something was wrong with his access. I'd ask him to close the shortcut door he'd opened, alarm now sounding, and he always did. Then I'd act confused and say, "Why don't you try it on that other door over there," and direct him to the proper entrance to the office area, which had a mysterious 100% success rate for letting him through. I simulated an intermittent technical error by deactivating his card and then reactivating it for well over 12 months, and I acted dumb anytime he questioned it. I've asked ICT about it, but nobody knows, mate. Who knows how these systems work? Sometimes he would forget his personal pass and I'd issue him a visitor pass and disable that on his shortcut too, which added an extra layer of obfuscation. Sometimes I'd allow him to use his shortcut and I'd happily close the door behind him, knowing that it was all part of his education. Eventually, he learned that it was always quicker to walk straight to the proper entrance, and he stopped taking the shortcut and stopped leaving the alarmed door near me open, and he never found out that I trained him. Created a point of interest on Google Maps to piss off wealthy Karen neighbors, by user rift_n. Edit *, I think someone flagged it because it's gone now skull. I'm going to add it back, but y'all are the best, thank you for aiding my pettiness. TL, DR, a 100% public road was built connecting my neighborhood to a wealthier one, and they are big mad and borderline harassing folks from my neighborhood. So we made a point of interest on Google Maps called Shortcut to Davis Ranch to stir the pot even more. Here, Shortcut to Davis Ranch. https://maps.appgoo.gl/psychpsha51evatw6 g_st=ic is a link to it if you want to see how petty my entire neighborhood is. Smiley face. I live in a non-gated neighborhood that previously had one road both in and out. My neighborhood also has 2 schools on this one road. The traffic is ridiculous during rush hour or when schools get in/out. There has always been a public works plan to build a secondary exit from my neighborhood. It just so happens to connect to the main road by going through a portion of a, also non-gated, wealthier neighborhood behind us. Fast forward, the public roadway gets built as planned. And as expected, people in my neighborhood start using it to avoid the traffic on the other, busier road. Legit shaves 15 to 20 minutes off any commute or drive. The people in this neighborhood have begun posting to theirs, and our FB page with the most ridiculous things and have gone to protest to their city council. Some examples to give y'all an idea: they are ruining our lives by driving through daily. This road has derailed mine and my wife's life plans. They are currently attempting to petition the city to rule the road emergency use only and are also filing a lawsuit against the city, supposedly. They have several folks who will legit take photos of cars driving through, and will count how many cars per day drive through. They've also tried to send my neighborhood HOA bills for the road. Which, mind you, is a 100% public road that they did not even pay for. The latest thing is that they are saying this road is a gift from them. Overall they're just pretentious folks tbh. It's why they think they're somehow entitled to anything. I'm not an asshole, I totally get how this could be annoying for them. But they have generalized my entire neighborhood as public enemy number 1 and tbh I just think it's hilarious. So we made a point of interest on Google Maps called Shortcut to Davis Ranch and have been reviewing it 5 stars with the most hilarious comments. The goal being that anytime they look at their maps they see this mention of the road they despise so much. My friend's revenge against my ex, by user Fiery Bonyashes. This technically wasn't my revenge. It was my friend getting it for me in my stead. Background: I broke up with my ex of a decade for holding rent over my head along with a bunch of other things that were much worse, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He was still living with me, so I gave him a grace period of 30 days, he took 2 weeks longer, to move out. I found another roommate, Missy, who was also friends with Sam, to move in, who was my friend at the time. My friend Sam was not in a good place with her family cause of issues, so she was considering sleeping in her car. I gave her a key and told her she can crash with me till she figures something out. So my ex tries to drag his feet. He says I'm not making the best decisions, being influenced by my friends. Says that the roommate can still move in and he can stay and we can work on our relationship. I still refuse. After he moves out to another state and lives with his mom, does he start to harass me? I was trying to be nice and even remain friends because he requested that, and I only requested for him to give me space for a little bit. He did not and even pushed. So I blocked him. He hacked into my Facebook to unblock him. He messed with my Disney Fast Passes in my account. He got into my fanfiction.net account and deleted my stuff. Also took stuff that wasn't his before he moved and then mailed back to me as a power play. He sent me letters. Some of which I didn't see because my friend Sam did me the favor since I wasn't in a good place emotionally. The basics of him saying I would be nothing without him and that I let other people get into my head rather than thinking for myself. Some threats as well. Revenge. I being a doormat and wanting nothing to do with just block him and try to move on. Eventually he stops and I'm just happy he did. My friend Sam was apparently the one who got him to stop. What she did? Before he moved she got her cat to sleep on his pillow. He's allergic to pet dander. She subscribed him to gay porn magazines and had that sent over to his mother's house under his name. An ugly email he sent me from his job email. She sent one back to his work calling it unprofessional. Sam got the letters that were him spouting abuse and showed them to her uncle, who's a cop. Who then sent a letter from his work stationery back to the return address, stating that if any more letters were sent along with other forms of harassment that a restraining order would be placed and that would go on his permanent record. She tells me this years later. I tell ya, I never felt more loved and supported in that moment. She is still my best friend. Edit. Thank you so much for the awards and the comments. Next time I see Sam, I will be sure to let her know how much she is appreciated and how awesome she is.